Beneath a sky that has forgotten the weight of cities and the ticking of clocks, we find ourselves drawn to a place untouched by the hands of time. In the quiet hush before dawn, we stand before a circle of ancient pillars, half buried, half awake, like fragments of a forgotten dream, a thought the earth once had and slowly, imperceptibly, let slip from its mind. These stones have stood for an age beyond reckoning, their purpose lost to the slow erosion of history. The wind carries whispers of a time when the stars themselves were still young, and the earth a different place altogether, pulsing with a rhythm both ancient and eternal. The moment is still, the air thick with a silence that is almost sacred. As the soft glow of twilight touches the horizon, the shapes of the pillars emerge from the dust like a secret unfolding. Their surfaces, worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain, reveal faint carvings, animals, shapes that once had names, but have since dissolved into the same mist that shrouds this place. Each pillar seems to lean toward the heavens, their silent faces turned toward the sky that has shifted above them for countless winters. Time, it seems, has abandoned this sacred place, leaving only the hushed echoes of an ancient wonder. The creatures etched in stone, foxes, birds, and other beasts, appear as guardians of a knowledge long since lost, their eyes watching the heavens as they always have, waiting, perhaps, for a time when they will once again be understood. It is said that these stones were not placed here by the hands of men, but by the hand of something far older, something beyond the reach of memory. Whispers tell us that they were carved by hunters who became builders, and builders who, in time, became dreamers of the stars. The truth of it is hidden deep beneath the weight of centuries, but there is a quiet pulse in the air here, a vibration that speaks of something more. These stones, once the center of a world now forgotten, seem to breathe in the cool, early morning air, and we, the visitors, are nothing more than brief echoes in the presence of their patient slumber. As we move closer to the temple, a hill rises gently before us, its crest crowned with the remains of stone and earth. There, hidden beneath the layers of time and dust, is a doorway, a threshold into a forgotten world. It is a place where the very ground seems to hold its breath, waiting for something to be remembered. The entrance is small, framed by the half-fallen pillars, their shapes blurring in the mist, but the promise of something profound lies just beyond. The temple, older than the gods themselves, hides within it a chamber that once pulsed with the fervor of those who sought to understand the mysteries of the stars. Now, it waits silently, its secrets tucked away in the shadows of the past. The air grows cooler as we descend, the silence deepening with each step. We enter the chamber, where the weight of history presses against us, thick as the dust that has settled in the cracks of the walls. The stone feels alive here, as though it remembers the hands that once traced its surfaces, the breath of those who stood before it, asking questions no one can answer. The pillars here, in the heart of the temple, stand like silent sentinels, each one marked with symbols that speak of a forgotten language, a prayer once half sung, half breathed into the air. What were they praying for, those dreamers of the stars? What did they ask of the night sky, when it was still a living thing, full of promise and mystery? Did they see in the stars the answers to the questions they carried in their hearts? Or were the stars, for them, simply a reminder of something deeper, something not yet understood, something that existed beyond the veil of time? We cannot know, and perhaps we are not meant to. The air here is thick with that mystery, a mystery that has lingered for so long that even the stones themselves seem to have forgotten the questions. Some believe that the pillars mark the path of starlight, a way to guide the souls of the dead to the place where the stars meet the earth. Others say they were built to track the turning of the seasons, a way to map the shifting world, to give meaning to the passage of time. Yet there are those who whisper that this temple was never meant to be understood. It was created not as a place of worship, but as a portal, a doorway to something far more elusive, a world that existed only in the sacred imagination of those who carved it. The air grows heavier still, and we feel the weight of the earth itself pressing against us. We stand, our hands on the cool stone, breathing in the cold, still air. What did it sound like, we wonder, when they spoke here? What did their voices sound like when language was still half song, when words were not yet a thing of rules and meaning, but of dreams and echoes? The stone seems to hum beneath our fingers as though it too is remembering. But the memory is distant, fading like a dream upon waking. We walk among the pillars, tracing their shapes with our eyes, each one a testament to a time long past. The carvings are worn, their details softened by the ravages of time, yet still there is a sense of something profound. The figures, the animals, the swirling patterns that once spoke of celestial truths, now seem like ghosts, shadows of a world that no longer exists. Yet, there is something in their presence that lingers, something that resists fading into the past. It is as if the stones, the pillars, and the chamber itself are waiting for us to remember, waiting for us to listen with the depth of understanding that only silence can bring. As the light of dawn begins to creep into the temple, the stones still stand, their surfaces bathed in the soft glow of the rising sun. The sky above is pale now, no longer the dark canvas it was only hours before. The stars that once filled the heavens have faded into the quiet blue, and the night has slipped into the folds of morning. Yet, beneath the surface of the world, something remains. The temple, though hidden from view, still watches, still listens, as it has done for thousands of years. Perhaps it remembers us, these brief visitors, as we remember it, or perhaps we are nothing more than a passing breeze, a fleeting thought in the vastness of time. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen, and perhaps the temple's silence is one such voice, a voice that speaks not in words, but in the quiet hum of stone, in the slow turning of the earth beneath our feet. Perhaps, one day, when we are ready, we will return to hear it again. But for now, we leave the stones as they are, still watching, still waiting, as they have always done. And as we step away, the temple begins to fade into the mist, its secrets once again hidden beneath the weight of centuries. We do not know if we will ever understand what it meant, what it is still trying to tell us. Perhaps it was never meant to be found. But, like the stars that once guided the dreamers, it remains, quietly, in the corners of our memory, waiting. In a harbour city where the sea kissed the marble shores, and the scent of salt carried secrets over the waves, there stood a temple unlike any other. It was not built of stone or brick, nor did it wear the heavy mantle of time's grand architecture. No, this temple was woven from the delicate threads of words, ink, and thought, standing on the edge of the world like a fragile promise. It was a library, though in truth it felt less like a building, and more like a living, breathing sanctuary of memory. In the soft, silvery light of the moon, we enter. The hall is quiet, steeped in an ancient stillness. The lamps burn low, their flickering flames casting long shadows, bending across shelves of wax tablets and tightly rolled scrolls. The air is thick with dust, mingled with the salt of the sea, which whispers endlessly just beyond the walls. It is said that this place once housed the breath of the world, every thought and dream, every hope and fear, carefully preserved in fragile rows. Each scroll is a cocoon, a universe unto itself, holding within it the wisdom of ages long past, and perhaps some that have never been understood. As we wander through this sacred space, we follow the quiet path of a single imagined scroll. It unfurls slowly, as if we are gently coaxing it from the dust of forgotten years. Its text is a forgotten song, an ode to the temple builders, to those whose hands shaped this place of knowledge. The scroll speaks of rituals by the river's edge, of stones attuned to the stars, of cities now lost to the earth's slow embrace. The words themselves are almost like whispers, their meaning faint, but still present in the air around us. And as we listen, we wonder, what were these people trying to remember? What did they seek in the silence of these pages? The words blur like mist before our eyes, and soon we realize that this place, this library, is not a place of simple knowledge. No, it is a temple, a sacred space, where the threads of history, myth, and memory intertwine. There are stories here that disagree, dates that have faded, myths that rise like smoke, interrupting history in ways that make it impossible to separate truth from legend. Perhaps the stories are not meant to be understood fully, but to exist in that delicate space between knowing and not knowing, as the sea mist exists between the land and the ocean, neither here nor there, but always in between. As we drift deeper into the labyrinth of shelves, the hall grows dimmer. The once pristine scrolls now dissolve into shadows, their edges curling, their ink slowly fading into the ether. Some believe that this temple, this library of thought, was destroyed by fire, a violent, consuming blaze that left nothing behind but ash and memory. Others say it was destroyed by neglect, a slow and unnoticed crumbling over the years, as the once thriving knowledge grew too vast to contain, too fragile to keep. And still, there are those who claim that it was not fire or neglect, but time itself that wore this place away, its contents carried off like sand in the wind, lost to the slow erosion of memory. The truth, perhaps, is neither clear nor simple. Perhaps the loss was not sudden, but a quiet and unseen fading, like the stars slipping away with the dawn. There is no definitive answer, only the lingering feeling of something that once was something precious, now gone, or at least obscured by the mists of time. We reach a place where the shadows seem to deepen, and the weight of the temple presses in on us. The scrolls, once vibrant with life, are now but remnants, ghosts of a world that no longer speaks in any language we can understand. We reach out to touch them, but the pages crumble under our fingers, like the very breath of knowledge escaping into the air. And yet, in their silent decay, there is a kind of beauty, a beauty that comes from knowing that even in their disintegration, these words still hold something. Perhaps they hold something more than mere knowledge. Perhaps they hold the very essence of a time long past, a time when the world was still a place of mystery and wonder. And so, we step back from the imagined flames that may or may not have truly come. We stand instead in the present silence, surrounded by a world that still whispers of this lost temple, this house of thought, as if it lives on not in the pages, but in the very air we breathe. It is not gone, we realize. It is still here, in the forgotten corners of our minds, in the spaces between breaths. The ache we feel in the emptiness is not for something lost, but for something that has always been just beyond our reach, like a dream that fades upon waking, yet lingers in the heart. We pause, listening. Perhaps the flames that once threatened to consume this place never came. Perhaps the temple never burned at all, and it was only our minds, our own desire for destruction, that sought to erase it. Perhaps the truth is simpler, quieter. Perhaps it was never meant to be found, but to exist in the mind, forever flickering, a flame that burns not in the world, but in our hearts. Some voices, it is said, only echo when we are ready to listen. And this library, this temple, may be one of those voices. Its echoes are not loud, not forceful. They are soft, like the whisper of pages turning in the wind, like the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore. The knowledge it once held is not gone, but resides within us, in the small, sacred places where memory is stored. As the night deepens and the sea mist thickens, we leave the temple behind, the shadows lengthening as we walk. The city lies silent now, its marble streets empty, its ships long gone. But the memory of the library that burned in the mind, lingers still. It is not a memory of destruction, but of transformation, a place where the knowledge of the world once gathered, only to dissolve into the quiet, sacred spaces of the heart. We walk away, but the scent of salt and ink stays with us. The feeling of words, half remembered, half forgotten, wraps around us like a cloak. Perhaps we will never know the truth of what happened to this temple, this library. Perhaps it was never meant to be known. But in the silence that follows, in the space where history and myth meet, we feel the presence of something enduring, something that speaks without words, something that will never truly burn away. Perhaps, in the end, it is not the pages that matter, but the spaces between them. And perhaps that is the truest form of knowledge, the quiet knowing that what we miss most may never have existed exactly as we imagine it, but still, it feels sacred in the mind. And there, it will always remain. Far from the restless rhythms of the sea, beneath a sky cloaked in soft shadows, there lies a city, a stone city, sleeping beneath a tide of green. Here, the air is thick with the hum of the forest, the roots of ancient trees twisting and entwining like the forgotten thoughts of a lost civilization. The leaves fall in endless, quiet rain, draping the city in a veil of living silence. It is said that this place, long abandoned by those who once called it home, now rests under the careful, patient gaze of the jungle. It is not a place of ruin or wreckage, but of quiet remembrance, of history that has softened into mist and vine. We come here not as explorers, but as quiet guests, strangers to the city's old pulse, yet drawn by the pull of its silence. The first image that greets us is simple, yet profound. Moonlight pools in an empty courtyard, its silver glow falling softly on the stone, where once there were footsteps, the rhythm of drums, the low chant of prayers carried on the breath of dawn. Now, only the faintest echoes remain. The stone, worn by time, tells no tales of the hands that built it, only of the years that passed since the last prayer was whispered in this hollow space. Here, in this quiet courtyard, the city does not shout its history, but breathes it in hushed tones, like a memory surfacing from a dream, delicate and fleeting. We move through the city slowly, drawn along worn stairways that seem to lead both upward and inward, through galleries carved with the figures of gods and warriors, celestial rivers, winding through the stone like lifeblood. But it is not the battles or the triumphs that call to us here, nor the gods that watch from their cold, carved thrones. No, our attention rests on the empty spaces between the images, the pauses, the quiet places where stone has crumbled, where meaning has slipped away like dust through the cracks of time. It is in these spaces that the city speaks to us, not in words, but in the silent language of loss and return. As we walk deeper into the veiled city, the jungle breathes around us, its pulse slow, unhurried, like a deep, patient sigh. The trees and vines seem to whisper softly, telling us stories they have kept for centuries, stories of the city's rise and fall, of the people who once moved through these streets with purpose, their voices ringing with ambition and hope. What became of them? Why did they leave, leaving the stone to crumble beneath the weight of time and the pressing green tide? Was it drought that forced them to abandon the city, or war that scattered them like ash in the wind? Or was it something far more inward, a turning away from the outer temple toward something deeper, something invisible, that drew them away from these walls and into the unseen shrines of their hearts? Perhaps the answer lies in the layers of time that have gathered here, one atop another, like the sediment of forgotten rivers. There are the builders, those who first raised these stones with hands full of fire and dream. Then there is the forest, that patient, insistent force, which crept in slowly, its vines curling around the stone, like memory wrapping itself around the fragile threads of history. And then, there are the distant eyes that later found the city again, eyes that marveled at the stone, yet could not see it, whole eyes that could only wonder at what had been lost. Each generation, we realize, leaves its mark a layer of dust, a story of its own, and yet a misunderstanding of the one that came before. The jungle, in its own way, understands this better than we do. It does not rush to claim what was once human, but rather, it folds it into its own rhythms, its own time. There is no hurry in the jungle. There is only the patient unfolding of each leaf, each vine, each moment, as if the city itself were not lost, but simply waiting for us to understand that it belongs to another rhythm now. As we continue our journey, the silence deepens. The city, though crumbling and veiled, is alive with a quiet energy, a presence that fills the spaces between the stones and the trees. The jungle has not devoured it, nor has it been abandoned to rot. No, it has been returned, gently, slowly, as if the earth itself had decided to cradle it in its arms, wrapping it in the embrace of its own time. The stones, though weathered and worn, seem to hum with an ancient pulse, the echoes of a life once lived here, still lingering in the air. We walk toward the highest terrace, where the last light of the day is fading into the blue hour. Here, we stand, looking out over the city, our gaze drawn to the towers that still pierce the canopy like worn teeth, their jagged edges softened by the passage of time. Below us, the dark pools of water mirror the sky, their stillness interrupted only by the occasional ripple from the jungle's breath. In this moment, we understand that the city is not lost to the jungle, but rather has been transformed by it. The city's grandeur, its human greatness, is no longer defined by its towers or temples, but by the way it has quietly returned to the earth, to the green embrace of the jungle. Perhaps, in the end, this return to silence is not a tragedy, but a kind of blessing, a slow, green blessing. There is no great destruction here, no violent end, only the gentle passing of time, the soft return of what was once created, back into the care of the earth. The city offers no clear answers, no neat conclusion. It only offers a feeling, the feeling that human greatness, like all things, is temporary, as fleeting as the patterns drawn in the leaves, as transient as the whispers carried on the wind. The jungle, in its quiet patience, reminds us of this truth, that nothing lasts forever, and that perhaps this return to silence, to the green embrace of the forest, is the most sacred thing of all. As we turn to leave, the city fades softly behind us, its towers and terraces swallowed by the growing shadows. The jungle continues to breathe, unhurried and eternal, as the last traces of moonlight dance upon the leaves. And somewhere, deep within the tangled roots and the crumbling stone, the city waits, not for us to return, but for those who will one day listen to the stories it still holds, stories that will never be told in any language, but the silence of the earth itself. Perhaps, in the end, it was never meant to be found. Perhaps the city was always meant to be a memory, a dream that lived only in the green depths of the jungle. And perhaps, in that memory, there is a quiet blessing, a reminder that all things, no matter how great, must one day return to the earth. And so, we leave, carrying with us the feeling of the city, not as it once was, but as it is now, a place of stillness, of mystery, of quiet grace, a city drawn back into silence. Beneath an island of honey-colored rock, where the wind whispers the tales of distant shores, there is a hollow in the earth, a sacred space, where sound itself seems to remember. The sea rolls softly against the cliffs above, but here, in the depths, the world is still the hum of the daylight world forgotten, replaced by a silence that feels ancient, as though the very stones listen. We descend into it, step by slow step, leaving behind the noise of the living world, drawn down by a pull as deep as the earth itself. The first thing we see is a low stone doorway, a gate carved from the bedrock, its edges worn by time but still firm, still holding. It stands not as a threshold to something ordinary, but as an invitation, a silent beckoning to enter a world that breathes not with air, but with sound, with memory. Beyond it lies a labyrinth of chambers, winding in ways that do not seem meant for burial or human occupation, but for something more, something quieter. The air here is cool, thick with stillness, and the ceiling presses low, as though the earth itself holds its breath. The walls are traced with spirals, veiled symbols whose meanings drift just beyond our reach, like the edge of a dream, always there but never quite grasped. As we step deeper into the heart of this hollow, the stillness thickens. We are far from the reach of daylight now, wrapped instead in a soft, shadowed world, where even the smallest noise seems to carry weight. The first sound we hear is our own breath, a soft intake of air, but when it slips away from us, something strange happens. The stone beneath us seems to hum, to return the sound to us, as though the earth itself is listening and answering. It is a deep, uncanny echo, as though the walls are not merely hollow but alive, holding something ancient in their depths. There is a pulse here, a rhythm woven into the rock itself, and it seems to reach out to us, like a hand from the past, beckoning us to listen more closely. We linger in this single chamber, where the echo lingers, warping the air around us in ways that feel both familiar and unsettling. We imagine, then, the robed figures who once stood here long ago, their voices rising and falling, turning the cave into a living instrument. Perhaps they sang, their chants weaving through the stone like threads of sound, binding the very heart of the earth to their breath. Were these songs for the dead, whose spirits were said to wander the earth still, longing for release? Were they for the unborn, whose souls might have lingered in the space between worlds, waiting for their time to emerge? Or were they songs for the stars, for the distant heavens above, or for something nameless, something unseen, that dwelled only in the minds of the singers, a force beyond comprehension? As we walk through the adjoining passages, the silence presses in around us, but we think we hear it again, the faint remnants of those ancient tones, a whisper in the dark, like the faintest breath on the wind. Perhaps it is only our expectation that shapes the sound, as though our minds are reaching for something that no longer exists, trying to pull the past into the present, to hear again what was once sung. The stone does not speak in words, it speaks in echoes, in resonance. It is as though the very breath of those who once gathered here still lingers, held in the walls, in the cold stone, waiting for a moment to return. The deeper we move, the more we begin to understand how stone can hold memory, not in words or in markings, but in the way sound lingers, how it echoes and shapes the air, shaping the breath of those who would listen. The walls of the chamber seem to hum with the past, vibrating with the resonance of ancient voices, their tones trapped in the stone, like a melody that will never fully fade. Perhaps these songs were meant to be heard only in this place, in this hollow where the world itself is silent. Or perhaps, it is said, they were meant for the ears of the stars, whose distant, eternal gaze might have been the only audience worthy of the earth's voice. It is a strange thing, this way that stone can hold memory. The sound of the voice, once spoken, is not lost. It is absorbed into the walls, like light absorbed into the ocean's depths, where it lingers, refracting, never truly gone. Whispers tell us that in certain places, sound is not only heard, but felt, vibrating through the bones, through the very soul. In this underground chamber, it is said that the stone does not simply echo, but answers, as though the earth itself recognizes the human voice and returns it in kind. And yet, despite our best efforts, we do not know the purpose of this place. Was it a temple, a sanctuary for those who sought to commune with something beyond? Or was it merely a place of quiet contemplation, where the silence could be felt in its purest form, a place where the world's noise could be left behind? There is no clear answer, only the feeling that this space, this hollow beneath the earth, was not made for the living, but for something else, something eternal, something that lives in the breath of the earth, in the way sound is born and fades again into silence. The echoes fade as we leave, and the walls grow quiet again, their song hushed by the passing of time. As we emerge from the depths, the world above seems different, quieter somehow, as though the very air has changed. The sky is now scattered with starlight, and we stand beneath it, listening to the soft hum of the world, still echoing with the songs we did not fully hear, the songs we were not meant to understand. Our ears ring, but the sound is not entirely gone. It is still there, somewhere, beneath the surface of the earth, waiting. The underground chamber remains below, untouched and unchanged, holding its last note in silence, a hidden instrument waiting for its audience. The echoes of the voices who once sang there never fully fade, like the memory of a dream you can almost grasp, but not quite. The true purpose of this sacred hollow, its song, its meaning, is still unknown. Perhaps it was never meant to be understood. Perhaps it was always meant to be a secret, hidden away in the dark, a mystery wrapped in the silence of the earth. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen. Perhaps, one day, when we are attuned to the deeper rhythms of the world, we will return to that chamber. But for now, the song remains beneath us, waiting in the deep spaces where the earth holds its breath. On a plain of wind and sand, where the horizon blurs into a heat-soaked mirage by day and sharpens into crystalline clarity by night, there stands a ring of dark stones. Quiet, unyielding, they form a circle not tall, not polished, not grand in any conventional sense, but marked by a silent stubbornness that resists time. These stones are not merely relics of a forgotten age, nor are they the remains of something once mighty. They are more than that. They are a pattern, an invitation to something that stirs deep within the observer, something that calls not to the eyes, but to a deeper, older place within the soul. We arrive at dusk. The sun, low in the sky, casts long, delicate shadows across the sand, and the first stars begin to appear, flickering into existence one by one, as though they, too, are drawn to these quiet markers in the earth. The world feels suspended between two worlds, the fading warmth of day and the cool embrace of the night, which is gathering its stars like whispers. The stones, bathed in this twilight glow, appear not as ruins, but as part of something far greater, an open chamber whose roof is the vast, indifferent sky. There is no archway, no temple structure, only the stones and the sky, holding one another in a strange, eternal balance. In the stillness of this moment, we follow a traveler, a solitary figure, moving slowly among the stones. With each step, they reach out, fingertips grazing the warm surfaces of the stones, tracing the ancient contours, feeling the weight of the earth beneath them, wondering quietly why these stones were placed here, in this desolate land, in lines and circles that seem to echo constellations, or perhaps the rising of certain stars. It is said that these stones were not merely stacked and left, they were placed with purpose, though what that purpose was remains a mystery. Were they gates for spirits, waiting to guide the souls of the departed across the threshold? Were they calendars, tracking the turning of seasons with the precision of a forgotten science? Or were they simply the patient scribbles of a people, writing their awe upon the earth, marking the heavens with a pattern no one but the stars themselves could truly understand? The night deepens, and the traveler continues their slow exploration. Above, the heavens stretch endlessly, a silent witness to the passage of time. As the stars fill the sky, the stones below seem to come alive with meaning, as though they are whispering something just out of reach, something that the mind cannot quite grasp, but that the heart feels with quiet certainty. The constellations tilt and shift above the stones, aligning and realigning as if in a subtle dance, a movement so slight, so delicate, it almost vanishes from view. Yet for those who are patient, who wait with open eyes, the alignments appear and disappear in the silence of the desert night, offering interpretations that never quite settle, leaving only an ever-deepening mystery. The traveler remains, their breath slow and steady, as they watch the dance of stars above the stones. Each alignment feels like a secret, a code, a celestial message that both invites and evades understanding. The stones, like the stars, seem to be a bridge between what is known and what is unknown, a place where the earth itself reaches up toward the heavens, trying to touch something far beyond. But the desert, as always, holds its secrets tightly. The sand, like time, smooths the sharp edges of history, leaving only suggestions, fragments of what once was. The marks of the past, though still faintly visible, are half erased by the shifting winds, as if the earth itself, in its patient wisdom, has decided that some truths are too heavy to bear, and so they are gently erased, leaving only soft footprints upon the sand. As the hours slip by, the traveler becomes one with the rhythm of the desert, slow, measured, calm. They are no longer searching for answers, but instead surrendering to the mystery, accepting that the stones may never yield their secrets. In the stillness, there is a soft, quiet acceptance. The stone walls that once felt so full of meaning now seem like echoes themselves, resonating with a timeless, unspoken knowledge. Perhaps these stones were never meant to be understood fully. Perhaps they are nothing more than an expression of awe, a way for a long-lost people to reach toward the heavens and leave their mark upon the earth, to capture in stone a moment of wonder as fleeting and as infinite as the stars themselves. As the night deepens and the first signs of dawn begin to stretch their soft fingers across the horizon, the traveler lies beside the stones. The ground beneath them is still warm from the heat of the day, and the air is thick with the scent of dust and silence. Above, the sky has shifted from the dark velvet of night to the pale, cool light of early morning, and the stars, now fading, seem to hold the last remnants of their secret in their quiet gaze. The traveler does not rise. They remain still, their body pressed into the earth, as though they have become part of the desert itself, a quiet witness to the vast, undisturbed landscape that stretches out before them. The final image is one of quiet contemplation, the traveler, still and peaceful, beside a single stone. Above them, a single star hangs in the sky, its light faint but unwavering, as if it, too, is waiting for something. The stone and the star share a line of sight, an invisible thread of meaning crossing the vastness of the desert. It is precise enough to feel intentional, yet open enough to remain forever in a gentle, shimmering doubt. A connection, perhaps, or an illusion, it is hard to say, But in this moment, beneath the stars and beside the stones, the traveler feels a sense of belonging, of knowing, without knowing. The stone and the star, the earth and the sky, the past and the present, all seem to be woven into a single, silent thread that hums softly in the stillness. And so, the chapter fades into silence. The desert, with its endless stretches of sand and sky, holds its secrets close. The stones, unchanged, remain in their quiet patterns, waiting for those who will come to see them again. The traveler, in their stillness, has found something deeper than answers, something far more elusive, something that cannot be grasped, but can only be felt. The desert stones that drew a secret sky may never reveal their full story, but perhaps that is the point. Perhaps the secret was never meant to be solved, but only to be experienced, a fleeting moment of connection between the earth and the heavens, between the past and the present, between the known and the unknown. Some mysteries, it seems, are meant to remain just beyond our reach, like the soft footprints of time half erased in the sand. Perhaps they are not meant to be understood, but to be felt, deeply, in the quiet spaces between breath and thought, where the mind gives way to the heart, and the stars share their secrets with those who are willing to listen. High in the mountains, where the air thins and the clouds drift close enough to touch, there lies a stone terrace, perched on the edge of the world. From this quiet place, the eye is drawn downward to valleys shrouded in morning mist, where the earth, like an ancient breath, seems to hold its secrets close. The sun rises and sinks each day, offering its golden light in a steady, eternal rhythm. And here, along the terrace's edge, carved from the very rock itself, are faces stylized, solemn, their gazes cast toward the horizon. They stand like silent sentinels, watching the sun's movements across the sky, as if they were waiting for something or someone to return. We step into this place at sunset, when the world is bathed in soft, pale gold, and the day begins to fade into the cool shadows of night. The faces greet us in silence, their features carved so long ago that the hands that shaped them have long turned to dust, and yet they remain unyielding, timeless, watching the heavens and us with the same patient gaze they have held for centuries. They are not merely statues, they are watchers, silent witnesses to the passage of time. As the light dims, we settle among them, feeling the grain of the stone beneath our palms, the cool chill creeping in with the evening. The air feels different here, thinner, as though the mountains themselves have absorbed the whispers of generations past. Who were these watchers, we wonder? Ancestors who left their faces behind, gods who once walked among men, guardians entrusted with a sacred task, or mirrors of the people who carved them, reflecting back their hopes and fears. It is said that these faces were not created by ordinary hands, but by those who sought to understand the rhythms of the sun and the sky, those who watched the heavens as they would watch a familiar friend, waiting for it to speak. Whispers tell us that the faces were carved to ensure the sun's return, to guard the sacred passage of light through the seasons. Some believe that each face holds the name of someone lost to time, a name etched so deep that it could not be erased by the passing centuries. And there are those who say that the expressions of these faces change with the seasons, shifting ever so slightly, so that over the course of a year they seem to come alive, as though they too are waiting for the sun to rise once more. Yet, despite the stories, despite the myths and legends that swirl around this place like the very mist in the valley, we are left with only one certainty: the faces remain, their eyes locked on the horizon, unwavering, as though they are waiting for something, or perhaps for someone to finally understand their purpose. The line between myth and memory blurs here. The stone faces, silent and eternal, refuse to reveal their true nature. Some of their features are sharp, others soft, as if carved not with a single vision, but with the dreams and hands of many generations. Between what can be measured and what can only be imagined, we drift gently, never forcing the two to meet. The land here holds its own mysteries, ones that cannot be spoken in the tongue of men. Perhaps these faces are not merely markers of time, but guardians of something older, something beyond the reach of history. As the sky darkens, the terrace seems to fall into shadow, the once bright faces now fading into the twilight. Yet, even in their shadowed silence, the feeling of being observed grows stronger, more tangible, as though the watchers have turned inward, contemplating us instead of the heavens. We begin to understand, perhaps, that they were not created merely to observe the world. They were created to understand it, to be in dialogue with the sky, the earth, and the people who stood in awe of both. In the growing darkness, it is as if they are not watching the sunset at all, but watching us, the visitors, the strangers who have come to witness their ancient vigil. The emotional arc of this place slowly unfurls, like a flower blooming in the cool night air. There is a melancholy here, a quiet recognition that the faces, like the people who carved them, have long since been forgotten. Those who once stood here, chanting or in silent vigil, are gone, their names lost to the winds of time, and yet their presence lingers. Their intention, the very reason these faces were carved, persists, like a thin, persistent fragrance that does not fade with the setting sun. The watchers are still here, even though their ritual, their task, may no longer be understood. The silence deepens, and we sit among the faces, feeling the weight of history that presses in from every corner of the terrace. The sun sinks lower, the mountains casting long shadows over the stone, and the first star begins to appear above the mountain ridge. It is faint at first, a soft point of light in the darkening sky, but as the sky deepens into the ink of night, the star grows brighter, and its light reflects faintly in the hollowed eyes of the stone faces. It is as if, in this moment, the watchers have seen something, a signal, a sign, a spark of meaning that passes from the heavens into their waiting gaze. Perhaps it is not the star that matters, but the way the stone faces seem to align with it, as though they, too, are part of the cosmic dance. The first star is small, distant, but it holds something sacred in its light. It is a quiet reflection of what these faces once were, not simply stone, not simply markers of time, but instruments of a deep, unspoken ritual. Even now, as the world around them fades into shadow, they continue their task. Perhaps the words of the ritual have been lost, forgotten by all but the stone, but the intention remains. The watchers still stand, their eyes turned toward the heavens, their presence unchanged. They still perform their ancient task, waiting for the sun's return, waiting for the stories to come full circle once more. And so, the chapter closes in a soft silence, the first star shimmering faintly above the mountain ridge. The stone faces, in their stillness, continue to watch, as they have always done. Perhaps no one remembers the words of the ritual, or the names of those who carved the faces into the rock. Perhaps the purpose of this sacred place has long been forgotten. But in the quiet of the evening, as the earth breathes softly beneath the mountains, we are left with the feeling that the watchers, those silent sentinels, are still here, still holding the memory of the sun and the sky, still waiting for something they alone understand. Some mysteries, it is said, are not meant to be solved. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen. Perhaps the watcher's task was never to be understood, but only to be felt in the quiet shadows, in the deep gaze of the stone, in the soft light of the first star. Their vigil continues, even as the world turns away, and they wait, as they always have, for the sun to leave and return once again. Beside a river that gleams like polished metal in the final light of day, there lies a stone, a vast block, half born from the quarry. Its sides are shaped with care, though its body remains stubbornly tethered to the earth, unfinished. Around it, the marks of chisels and hammers are frozen in time, left as they were, as though the workers, caught in a moment of quiet reverence, simply set down their tools one afternoon and never returned. The air around this place is heavy, as though the earth itself holds its breath, waiting for something that will never come. We arrive in the soft glow of evening, as the last rays of the sun wash over the block, turning it into a sleeping giant. There is something sacred in this stone, something caught between intention and surrender. It lies there, waiting, as though caught in the balance between the world of the living and the world of the unfinished. The fading orange light of the setting sun casts long shadows across the unfinished surface, and we feel an unspoken presence, a quiet pulse that reverberates through the rock, through the land. This stone, This half-formed temple is not a monument, not yet. It is a question, a mystery that has not yet been answered. Some say it was meant to rise as an obelisk, a towering pillar reaching toward the sky, designed to catch the first rays of dawn in its sharp, gleaming points. Others believe it was to be a needle of stone, a sacred thread stitching earth to sky, a vertical testament to human ambition. But now, lying here in the quiet light of evening, it is neither of these things. It is simply a block of stone, half-formed, abandoned in its becoming. And yet, despite its unfinished state, it seems more alive than the completed monuments that stand elsewhere. There is something about its incompleteness, its quiet refusal to be anything more than it is, that calls to us, that invites us to understand its story, a story not of construction, but of surrender. We move closer, tracing the cracks along its surface. It is said that these cracks tell the story of a flaw discovered too late, of a great plan abandoned because the stone itself refused. The marks of the chisels are clear, the strokes bold and determined, yet they are halted, interrupted by the resistance of the stone. We hear in these cracks the quiet hum of human will, meeting the unyielding stubbornness of matter, the earth's refusal to be bent, to be shaped in the way the builders intended. Was it the stone that had a flaw, or was it the ambition of the builders themselves, who sought to impose their vision upon something that could not be shaped in the way they imagined? As we stand beside the block, we sense that this unfinished temple, this almost monument, holds more meaning than the monuments that were completed. Around the quarry, other carved scars stain the rock, evidence of what did succeed, pillars that stand tall and proud, obelisks that catch the light, temples that tell the stories of those who built them. And yet, it is this one, the one that never rose, the one that remains half buried in the earth, that holds our attention. It is not finished, it is not perfect, and perhaps, in this, it is the most sacred of all. We sit beside the stone, the cool evening air settling around us, and the sun fades behind the hills, casting the world in shadows. As night settles in, the block cools and darkens, blending with the hill from which it was cut, becoming one with the land. The stone, once vibrant with human intent, is now quiet, at peace with its stillness. The cracks on its surface seem less like flaws and more like gentle reminders. Reminders that not all things must be finished, that not all prayers need to be answered, and that sometimes the most sacred thing a builder can do is to stop, to step back, and to allow the earth to keep a secret. As the stars begin to shimmer faintly above, we reflect on the nature of this unfinished monument. Perhaps, it is said, some songs of stone are meant to be half sung, not completed, not perfect, but still holding meaning in their silence. In this place, where the land is still and the stone lies quietly in the shadow of the hills, we come to understand that the true meaning of the block is not what it was meant to become, but what it already is. It is a question, a space in time where the human will meets the earth and finds its answer not in construction, but in quiet acceptance. Perhaps there was a time when the builders stood before this stone, hands raised in anticipation, hoping to make it something great, something that would stand for generations to come. But now, the stone remains just as it was, a sleeping giant caught between intention and surrender, neither a temple nor a failure, but something else entirely. It has found peace in its incompleteness, and in that peace, it holds something sacred, something beyond the reach of the hammer, beyond the reach of time. The chapter ends not with tragedy, but with a gentle sense of acceptance. In the stillness of the evening, as the stone becomes one with the earth, we understand that sometimes the most beautiful things are those left unfinished. Sometimes the most sacred places are those that remain quiet, those that ask no more of us than to witness their presence. As the night deepens and the stars above begin their eternal watch, the block remains, as it has always been, a symbol of human ambition and earth's quiet resistance, a testament to the beauty that lies in what is left undone. Perhaps it was never meant to be finished, after all. Perhaps the unfinished stone is its own prayer, a silent offering to the earth, a message that some things are meant to remain just as they are, unfinished, imperfect, and yet, in their stillness, sacred. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen, And perhaps this stone, this unfinished temple, will always stand as a reminder that not all things need to be completed to be meaningful, that sometimes the greatest beauty lies in the things we leave unfinished, the things we surrender to the silence of the earth. In a wide, dry basin, where rain is a rare visitor and the wind moves like a quiet, unseen animal, there stands a city, or rather, the remains of one. The land is ancient, arid, scarred by the passage of countless seasons. Here, where the earth stretches endlessly beneath a pale, endless sky, there lies an arrangement of rooms and walls that forms a pattern of circles within squares, spirals within straight lines. It is not a towering city, grand or imposing, but a low, intricate weaving of stone, like a breath held in time. Plazas, corridors, sunken chambers open to the sky, each stone placed carefully, each line drawn with intention. This is a place not of dominion, but of balance, a design that seems to reflect the rhythms of the world itself. As we walk through this forgotten city, we feel the weight of its silence, the way the wind dances through the empty spaces, swirling around the stones like a memory too fragile to hold. The walls, once alive with movement, now stretch long, casting soft shadows in the fading light of a high, pale sun. The air is still and dry, thick with the dust of centuries, and as the sun sinks lower, the light shifts, deepening into gold and copper, slowly transforming the city. We walk into the heart of this place, where a round ceremonial room, a kiva, awaits. Here, the stone floor curves downward, into the earth, and we find ourselves sitting near a small opening in the floor. It is said that this is a symbolic breath hole, a place from which the ancestors of this people were believed to have emerged, stepping from the underworld into the realm of the living. The opening breathes in silence now, but in ages past, it is said to have been a portal, a threshold between worlds. The walls of the kiva are worn, smooth from the touch of countless hands, the soft passage of generations. They tell of rituals once timed to the sun, of ceremonies performed when the light of the day stretched just so, of starlight carefully observed through windows and doorways, aligning perfectly with the stones that framed them. The people who once gathered here understood the power of alignment, how the sun's journey could be mirrored in the architecture of their city. Some say that certain stones were set with such precision that on certain days the sun would strike them like a finger pointing from the heavens, a reminder that their world was woven into something far greater than themselves. And yet, despite all the precision, despite all the care that went into its construction, the reasons for their departure remain shrouded in mystery. Whispers tell us of droughts that came and went, of journeys taken, of cycles of leaving and returning that were written into their very traditions. Perhaps, as the seasons shifted, they too were drawn by the pull of the horizon, their time here slipping away like water through their fingers. But no one truly knows. The stone holds no answers. It only holds the memory of a people long gone. And as we sit in the stillness of this place, we feel the weight of that mystery, a silence as deep as the earth itself. As the sun dips lower, the shadows stretch longer, and the temperature cools. The city seems to hold its breath. The wind picks up, stirring the dust, and for a brief moment, we hear it a faint echo, like the sound of a drumbeat. It is a sound that rises from the earth, a memory, a whisper of something long forgotten. The walls of the kiva, once alive with voices and music, now stand mute, their ancient song reduced to an imagined drumbeat, fading away into the night. The wind picks up again, and the sound is lost, swallowed by the vast emptiness around us. We rise and move gently through the city, our footsteps light, careful not to disturb the delicate balance of the stone. The patterns, the alignments, the purpose of it all, seem to unfold before us in layers, not just a city, not just an architectural marvel, but a place woven into the fabric of time itself. The circles within squares, the spirals within straight lines, they are not just shapes, but symbols, the language of a people who understood the rhythms of the world. The city was never meant to be simply seen, but experienced, felt in the movement of light, in the passage of the seasons, in the quiet breath of the earth. And yet, as the evening deepens, the city seems to grow more distant, more like a memory than a place we can touch. The rooms, the hearths, once filled with life, are cold now, The stone that once held the heat of human touch is now empty, abandoned. We feel a tenderness for these empty rooms, the silence pressing in on us like a weight. The city is not just abandoned, it is forgotten its people, its songs, its stories slipping away with each passing year. The air is still, but it hums with a quiet sorrow, a longing for something that can never return. As we stand at the edge of the city, we look up, the night has fallen, and the stars are beginning to stretch across the sky, like the beginning of an ancient map, drawn twice, once in the stones beneath us, and once in the heavens above. The rings of stone seem to mirror the circles in the sky, the alignment of the earth and the stars forming a sacred correspondence, a connection that exists only in this moment, only in this place. It is as though the city, with all its mystery and its quiet wisdom, was always meant to be a map that connects the earth to the heavens, that shows the way, but never tells the full story. And so, the chapter fades into silence, the last traces of the drumbeat lost in the wind, the final light of the stars shimmering faintly above the city. The city, once full of life, now lies beneath a river of stars, like a forgotten memory, its meaning still shimmering just beyond our grasp. Perhaps it was never meant to be fully understood. Perhaps the answers were never meant to be found. Some mysteries, it is said, are meant to remain half-remembered, like songs sung in a language that only the earth can understand. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen. The City of Circles, written in dust and echo, holds its secrets not in words, but in its silence, in its stillness, in the space between the stars and the earth. And perhaps, in the end, that is the most sacred thing of all, to leave a place for the mysteries, to create a space for the silence to speak. Where the sea curls gently against a rocky shore, there exists a path that rises and falls with the rhythm of the ocean, a causeway that emerges and disappears like a secret whispered by the tide. At low water, stones, worn smooth by the passage of time, rise in a deliberate line, leading from the solid land to a distant island. On that island, there stands a structure, some say an ancient abbey, others a forgotten temple, its silhouette faintly visible against the sky. But when the tide returns, the path sinks beneath the surface, swallowed by a silver sheet of waves, vanishing as if it had never existed. Only the sea and the moon know this secret well. We arrive in the hush of evening, just as the tide begins to draw away, its watery fingers receding from the land. The causeway appears slowly, quietly, like an invitation, its stones revealed to us one by one. They rise from the seabed like the faintest echo of something long forgotten, waiting for the patient souls who know how to wait for it. There is no rush. The sea, though vast, is polite in its retreat, leaving behind this fragile road, this sliver of connection between the world of the living and the world of silence. As we begin our slow walk along this moonlit road, each step feels like an offering, a silent prayer for the sea to remain still, just a little while longer. The stones beneath our feet echo softly, as if the earth itself is holding its breath, as if it too knows that this path is both fleeting and sacred. Every step we take feels like an act of trust, for we know the tide will return, that the sea will once again rise to claim what has been momentarily revealed. Yet, for now, the causeway is ours, and it leads us forward, gently but inexorably, toward the island and whatever sanctuary it holds. We wonder, as we walk, about the lives of those who walked this road long ago, the pilgrims who made their journey here in search of forgiveness or enlightenment, the monks who carried bread and prayer across this stretch of land and water, the villagers who brought offerings of grain or song, perhaps to honor the gods, perhaps to remember the passage of time. The path feels, in this moment, like a living memory, as if the stones themselves carry within them the whispers of those who trusted in the road, who believed that the sea would keep its distance just long enough for them to reach the island. The air is cool and heavy with the scent of salt and stone, and the soft sound of the waves against the shore creates a rhythm, like a heartbeat, like a pulse we can feel deep in our bones. The causeway, though solid beneath our feet, feels fragile, delicate, a threshold between worlds. On one side, the solid land, the familiar earth beneath our feet. On the other, The cloistered island, veiled in mystery, its stone walls and ancient halls untouched by time, untouched by the rushing tide. The space between feels both sacred and uncertain, a quiet invitation to step beyond the known, to cross the line where the land meets the water, where certainty meets the unknown. As we move further along, the moon rises higher in the sky, casting long shadows over the stones, turning them silver, like a path of stardust across the water. The sound of our footsteps becomes softer, more distant, as if the very sea is listening, as if even the ocean itself respects this ancient road. Each stone beneath our feet seems to hold a memory of the past, of those who walked before us, of lives lived in the quiet trust that the sea would stay away long enough to let them reach the island. There is a deep peace here, a kind of stillness that seems to flow with the tide itself, as if the causeway is not just a road, but a thread that connects the past and the present, the earth and the sky, the human heart to the mysteries of the deep. But soon, as we near the far gate of the island, we glance back over our shoulder. The first fingers of water have begun to creep over the stones, quietly, steadily, reclaiming what the tide once gave. It is as though the causeway, this bridge between worlds, is already beginning to dissolve, to return to the sea from which it came. We stand for a moment, looking back, watching as the road we walked slowly vanishes beneath the water. The moonlight dances on the surface of the waves, turning the path into a darker band beneath the ripples, and we are left with the deep feeling that we have crossed something more than just a road. We have crossed a threshold, a passage between the world of the living and the world of the eternal. The emotional journey shifts, gently, from fascination with the beauty of the causeway to a deeper, tender understanding of its impermanence. For the road, like all roads, is temporary. It is a passage that can only be walked for a brief moment, before the tide returns, before the sea reclaims it, and it vanishes into the depths once more. The causeway was never meant to last forever. It is a reminder that all safe passages are temporary, that every sanctuary, no matter how sacred, is reached only by trusting something we cannot control, something as vast and as unpredictable as the sea itself. As the final waves roll over the stones, we stand still, listening. Perhaps it is the imagined ringing of bells that reaches our ears, the faint sound of them tolling from the abbey on the distant island. Or perhaps it is only the memory of their song, carried on the night wind. Whatever it is, the sound lingers, and in that lingering moment, we are reminded that some roads must be crossed, not only with the body, but with the quiet courage of the heart. The causeway has gone, but its memory remains, carried in the soft rhythm of the sea, in the whispers of the wind, in the stillness beneath the moon. The last image is of the causeway fully submerged, its stones no longer visible, hidden beneath the surface of the tide. The abbey bells imagined or remembered continue to ring faintly across the water, a distant echo, a reminder that some journeys are only meant to be walked for a moment, and that the greatest courage lies in knowing when to let go, when to trust the water to take back what it has given, and when to turn, leaving the road behind. Perhaps, in the end, it was never meant to be found again. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen. The causeway, like all things, has returned to the sea, but the memory of it, of that brief, moonlit moment, will linger, shimmering in the quiet folds of time. Beyond a narrow crack in a cliff, hidden beneath the cloak of brush and shadow, there lies a chamber of stone that once knew only night. It is a place forgotten by the sun, where time itself seems to have stopped, suspended in the cool embrace of silence. We step inside, not with flame to guide our way, but with a lamp of imagination, casting faint light across the ancient walls. The air is cool here, heavy with the stillness of centuries, and the low ceiling presses in around us like a whisper from the past. Outside, the world dissolves, and we are left with only the sound of our own breath and the endless silence of stone. As our eyes adjust to the dim light, the walls begin to speak. They do not speak in words, but in images, vivid, rushing scenes of life that seem to pulse and breathe with a quiet energy. Herds of horses, bison, deer, and strange, half-faded creatures surge across the stone in ochre, charcoal, and pale mineral light. The figures are not static, not frozen in time. They overlap, their forms merging and shifting in the soft flicker of our light, as though the stone itself remembers running, breathing, thundering hooves across grass that has not been seen for ages. The animals are not simply painted, they are alive, moving, caught in the endless flow of time that the walls refuse to release. We move slowly along these painted processions, careful not to disturb the delicate silence that hangs in the air. The animals are ancient, their forms worn by the passage of time, yet they seem to be caught in a moment that never ends, as if the cave itself has held them in stasis, suspended forever. Some say these pictures were offerings to unseen spirits, a way to honor the creatures that sustained the people who once gathered here. Others believe they were prayers, hunts written in advance, the hope that the animals would return, that the chase would always be fruitful. Yet there is something more, something that lingers in the way the animals overlap, in the way they seem to move when the lamp flickers, just so as if these images were more than mere representation, as if they were attempts to hold on to life itself in a world where life was always uncertain, always fleeting. We pause in front of a single figure, a handprint, perhaps, or a simple symbol, faint and delicate against the rough surface of the stone. It is not an animal, nor a scene of movement, but something more intimate, more personal. It feels like a signature, a gesture left for us across tens of thousands of years, a whisper from a time so distant that it is almost beyond our grasp. The handprint seems to hold something more than the pigment it was made from, as though it carries the very breath of the person who left it. We are drawn to it, not as spectators of history, but as kin, as those who, too, have left our marks in the world, seeking to say, "We were here," to claim our place in time. There is a tenderness in this moment, a quiet recognition of the shared urge to record, to remember, to communicate something that will outlast the brief span of our lives. The handprint is not just a mark on the wall, it is an echo of something timeless, an offering from one human being to another, separated not by space, but by millennia. It is a bridge, a thread that connects us to the distant past, a reminder that in the end, we are all part of something larger, something that transcends the boundaries of our fleeting existence. As we move further into the cave, we are caught between awe and reverence. The images on the walls, so ancient, so distant, seem to carry with them the weight of an entire world, a world that no longer exists, yet continues to breathe in these painted creatures. The animals, the hunters, the figures that remain, frozen in time, are not simply relics of a past civilization. They are a part of us. They are the stories we tell, the memories we preserve, the hope that something of us, something of what we were, will live on. The painted cave is not just a place where the past has been preserved. It is a testament to the endurance of memory, to the desire to capture life in all its fleeting beauty. As the time passes, we feel a quiet sorrow for the lives that once lived here, for the people who walked this earth with their own hopes, their own fears, their own struggles. Yet there is no tragedy here, no sense of loss that lingers. There is only a soft, unspoken peace. These animals, these figures, these marks on the stone, have endured beyond the lives of those who created them. They have lived on in the silence of the cave, untouched by time, waiting for those who would come to see them again. And so, as the evening deepens, we imagine the cave sealed again, the dark folding softly over the creatures that once ran across the walls. The echo of life, of breath, of movement, is held in the stillness. Outside, the constellations have shifted, new languages have risen and vanished, temples have been built and buried beneath the weight of the earth. But in this hidden chamber, the animals still run. They are untouched by time, by history, by the relentless march of the world. They are preserved in eternal twilight, an everlasting song on stone that never needed words. The final image lingers, the handprint, the creatures, the painted procession of life, fading gently into the shadows. We know that when the lamp flickers and the walls fall back into darkness, these images will still remain, etched in the stone, etched in our memory. Perhaps, it is said, they were never meant to be fully understood. Perhaps they were always meant to be felt, to be experienced in the quiet, intimate space between us and the stone, between us and the past. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen. Some memories only resurface when we pause long enough to hear them. And perhaps, as we leave this place, as we step back into the world, we carry with us not just the images of the animals, but the feeling that they are still running, still alive, in the hidden places of our hearts. The painted cave, where animals never died, remains a place where life, in all its forms, continues to echo, forever. For this final journey, we leave behind all carved stone, all structures raised by human hands, and step into the oldest sanctuary of all, the open world, under a sky without roofs. It is here, beneath the vast, unbroken expanse, that we find our most ancient temple, the sky itself. We find ourselves standing on a hill, perhaps by a quiet shore, or simply by a window in a sleeping city. The exact place where we stand is less important than the simple act of looking up, for in this act, we enter a space larger than ourselves, a space that has always held humanity's deepest questions, its quiet prayers, and its silent awe. The sky unfolds before us, deep and dark as a velvet chamber, scattered with starlight. It is a sky not just of stars, but of stories, a sky marked by ancient inscriptions, constellations that stretch overhead, their shapes woven into the fabric of human history. The stars, like sacred scripts, have been read in countless ways over millennia, telling tales of hunters, queens, monsters, and travelers lost to the winds of time. As we gaze upward, we drift among these figures, not as observers but as participants in the story they tell. We imagine how every stone circle, every aligned doorway, every soaring pyramid was, in its own way, a reply to this luminous text. The night sky itself is a temple, and its architecture is cosmic, stretching far beyond our understanding. We see the constellations not just as patterns of light, but as the blueprint of a world that is both larger and more intimate than we could ever grasp. The stars, those ancient, distant points of light, seem to pulse with meaning, each one a tiny seed of wisdom planted by time itself. The temple builders, the priests, the sailors, the shepherds, they all gazed at these same stars, tracing their patterns with staffs, measuring shadows, singing to the North Star as to a guardian spirit. The sky has always been a guide, a mirror, a source of strength and fear. History and myth blur gently beneath its gaze, and we are drawn into the vastness, into the recognition that the same stars that guided those who came before us continue to shine above us now. As we stand beneath this celestial dome, we begin to feel the quiet hum of history and memory merging. There is something sacred in the way the stars hang in the sky, in the way the constellations hold their shapes, preserved over millennia. We think about how many times the sky has been read as prophecy, as promise, as threat, as comfort, and yet, despite all our knowledge, its deepest meaning remains veiled. We, too, have tried to decode its secrets, to map its constellations, to read its signs, but still, it eludes us. The night sky, like the finest temple, holds its truths in silence, in the space between the stars, in the gaps between the constellations that no map can ever capture. The emotional arc of this journey settles slowly, gently, into a sense of smallness and belonging. Here, beneath the vault of the heavens, we are tiny, fragile creatures, no more than specks beneath the vastness of the sky. And yet, in that same vastness, we are made of the same dust that glows in distant suns. The stars are our ancestors, our guides, our companions. In their light, we are reminded that we are part of something much older, much larger, than the fleeting span of a single human life. As the evening deepens and the stars burn more brightly in the sky, the world around us fades into silence, and we are left with the hum of the universe, the stillness of the night. The sky above, that great and silent temple, holds us in its embrace. We feel the connection, the continuity of those who have come before us, who have stood in the same place, perhaps in the same awe, perhaps with the same quiet reverence. The constellations, the distant stars, the patterns that we now read as myth and memory, were once their reality just as they are now ours. The chapter does not close with answers, for the sky offers none. It is not a place for certainty, but for wondering. The temple above us holds no liturgy, no prescribed rituals, no words to guide our prayer. It is simply there, vast, silent, and filled with a gentle invitation. An invitation to look up, to breathe in the cool air of the night, to let the slow turning of the heavens become our last temple of the day. In the vastness of this open sky, we are both tiny and infinite, bound together by the same dust that created the stars. And perhaps, in that recognition, we find our own place in the endless expanse of time and space. In the end, we leave the night sky as we found it, vast, unknowable, filled with secrets that remain untouched by time. We are left not with answers, but with the quiet echo of something ancient, something unspoken. The sky, like the finest temple, has no need for words. It speaks through its silence, through the patterns of stars that shimmer above, through the soft, steady pulse of the universe itself. Perhaps it was never meant to be fully understood. Perhaps it was always meant to be felt, to be experienced in the silence between breaths, in the quiet moments when we look up and allow ourselves to wonder. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen. Some mysteries only reveal themselves when we let go of our need for answers and instead allow the silence to speak. The moon rises higher now, casting its soft light over the landscape, and we are reminded that beneath the sky, beneath the same stars that have guided countless others, we too are part of the eternal story. And as we step away from this sacred temple, the one written in the night itself, we carry with us the invitation, the reminder, to step outside, on some quiet night, and let the heavens speak to us once more, to listen, not with our minds, but with our hearts, and to hear the echoes of those who have stood beneath this sky before us, in the same awe, the same wonder. Some roads are not meant to be mapped, but felt, and perhaps, in the end, the greatest journey is simply the one that asks us to look up, to breathe in the night, and to trust that we are part of something far greater than we can ever understand. In a high valley, where the mist moves like slow breath across the slopes, an old monastery sits folded against the mountainside, its stone walls the color of worn bone, its courtyards paved with stones polished smooth by centuries of quiet feet. The valley is untouched by time in the way of all sacred places, as though the earth itself has chosen to cradle it in silence. The air is thick with the weight of memory, each stone, each shadow, carrying the echo of lives once lived in reverence to something beyond the reach of words. And in the heart of this sanctuary, half veiled by the dust of ages and the slow passage of time, hangs a bell. It is large, dark, and heavy, its surface traced with faint, forgotten symbols. The symbols are not of any known language, but seem to wind around the metal like vines, their meaning elusive, like the faintest memory that slips through the fingers. The bell stands alone, suspended in a silent chamber, its tone as buried in mystery as the mountain that surrounds it. A single sliver of moonlight drifts through an open gate, stirring cobwebs, but never the bell itself. It stands still, its shape absorbed into the shadows, and yet there is something in the way it hangs, in the stillness around it, that pulls the eye, a presence, quiet but unyielding. No one remembers when the bell last rang. No one remembers its true purpose, what it was meant to call, what it was meant to herald. Perhaps it never rang at all. Perhaps its sound was lost to the weight of time, carried off by the winds that sweep through these mountains. Perhaps it was meant for a purpose forgotten, and now it simply hangs, waiting for a memory to return to it. As we move slowly through the stories that cling to it, we hear whispers, whispers that tell of a time when it sounded only at a secret hour before the first light of dawn, when the air was thick with silence and the world had not yet stirred. Some say its tone could call lost travelers from deep ravines, that it could reach into the hearts of those who wandered in the dark and pull them back to safety. Others believe it held the power to open an invisible door between waking and dream, a sound that passed through the veil and allowed the soul to wander beyond the waking world. But the stories are contradictory. The monks who once walked these halls insist that it was never used, that it remained forever silent, its purpose hidden even from those who lived within the sanctuary. Yet, the villagers who lived in the valley below swear they heard it on nights when the stars fell from the sky, when the world seemed to hold its breath, and time stretched like the shadows of trees under the moon. The bell, like the monastery itself, seems to be wrapped in layers of myth and memory, and in each telling, its meaning slips further away, just beyond reach. We linger on the bell. On the way, light touches its curved surface. The moonlight falls softly, casting delicate shadows along the metal. There is something sacred in the way the light seems to awaken the surface of the bell, in the way it shimmers like a reflection of something distant, something forgotten. A fingertip laid against the cool metal feels a faint inner tremor, as if the bell, though unmoved, still hums with the memory of its last toll, still carries within it some distant note that has not fully faded, some sound that waits to be heard. It is a quiet, elusive echo, like the shadow of a dream that lingers long after waking. As the evening deepens, the air grows cooler, and the silence within the chamber deepens with it. We imagine the bell in another age, a time when cloaked figures gathered beneath it, their faces lifted to the heavens, waiting for the single, perfect chime that would align their prayers with some hidden rhythm of the sky. Perhaps it was not just a bell, but a portal, a bridge between the earthly and the divine, a sound that carried not only through the stone of the monastery, but through the very fabric of the universe itself. The monks, the villagers, the travelers who sought shelter beneath the same sky, all were united in that moment, united by the toll of the bell, by the shared breath of waiting for a sound that would mark the turning of the world. But the scene softens, and the image dissolves before we can hear the chime. There is no answer, no ringing bell, only the quiet drift of the moonlit air through the open gate. The bell remains still, its secrets still held tight by the weight of time, as if it is waiting for something, for someone to remember its purpose, to call it back to life. But no answer comes, only the silence, only the waiting. And in this silence, we are left with the feeling that perhaps the bell was never meant to ring again, perhaps its purpose was never to be fulfilled. The emotional arc of this journey shifts from fascination with the bell's mystery to a tender recognition of its quiet presence. We are reminded that sometimes the most sacred things are not those that are loud and demanding, but those that sit quietly, patiently, waiting for us to notice them. The bell, though silent, holds within it the memory of 1,000 prayers, 1,000 hopes, 1,000 stories. It is a symbol of the unspoken, the unseen, a reminder that even in silence, there is meaning. The chapter closes softly, as the moon continues its quiet path across the sky, casting its light over the bell. We imagine the bell, still hanging in its shadowed chamber, its surface touched by the pale light, its inner sound still humming faintly within. And as the night deepens, we feel the pull of something ancient, something sacred, a promise never fully spoken, an echo that exists only in the listener's quiet, wondering heart. Perhaps the bell was never meant to be heard again. Perhaps its sound was never meant to carry beyond the walls of the monastery. Perhaps it was always meant to be a reminder, a question left unanswered, a mark of something lost to time. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen, and perhaps, like the bell, we, too, must wait for the right moment, the right silence, to hear the sound that was always meant for us.